Welcome back to True Bond Talks with Rachel and Linda. We're having a fun time today. And so we wanted to talk to you guys about conversation 3. I'm leaning over and hold me tight, Sue Johnson's work. And
visiting a rocky moment.
Thank you, Rachel. Ooh, rocky moments. All right. So in your relationship, you are going to, touch some raw spots, which we talked about last week. Um, you know, I use the example of when my husband gives me a look, I get triggered, right? And so then I insult, and then we go into our cycle. So what happens when we want to revisit that space? Like, when we're in an interaction and we notice something's not going right here, we're starting to cycle, get into that negative cycle again. What are some ways to de-escalate this disconnection that we're feeling for each other? And that's where we start with stopping the game.
Yeah. So just when you notice that you and your partner are engaging in those demon dialogues, your raw spot has been rubbed, you're in the middle of conflict, you're feeling disconnected from one another, stopping the game just means, someone acknowledging we're doing it again. Let's take a step back from this and try and figure out what's really happening for us here. Because it's more than this anger that is on the surface. It's more than this demon dialogue that we're getting into again.
Very good. Yeah, you're stopping that demon dialogue that Rachel's talking about. Is when I start pointing the finger at you, and then you point the finger at me, and then we're in this, devouring of words. Oh, I got you, and I got a better word than you. So we want to stop that blame game, or the POCA game, or the pursuer withdrawal game, as we call it. We want to slow that down. And the second step of doing that is to claim your own moves. Right, Rachel? We want to claim where we get into the dance. And like I use this example, when you give me that look, I feel dismissed. Like I feel dismissed. So then I insult you, right? And then you pull away from me, right? So I have to admit that I attack when you give me that look. So slowing down, oh, that's what happens. Yeah. And of course, your spouse or your partner says, yeah, that's what I do. I pull away. When you attack me, I pull away. So that's where I'm at. And then you feel, more disconnected from me, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's claiming your own move. Owning what you're doing in your relationship is the hardest thing you can do.
Yep.
Because I'm prideful.
Real.
Yeah, I'm prideful, Rachel. Got a lot of pride. I want to be right. I don't want no one telling me what's what. I want to own that, but I have to own it if I really want to slow this negative cycle, slow the game down, really take a step out and look.
Yeah. Sue often refers to it as, a playback of what's happening if you were a fly on the wall, or if you pressed, pause on a movie that you were watching.
Yes. And when you press pause, you're seeing that play by play, that look or that move, those words that you spoke. Yes.
Yeah. And so once we have claimed our moves, in this dance or cycle, then we go a little bit deeper and we claim our own feelings, right? So I snapped at you just now because I was feeling hurt, disappointed, unimportant, right? We're getting below anger. What's fueling it? The sadness, shame, and fear.
Very good. Yeah, very good. I felt sad when you turn away, when you put your headphones on and you look at your screen. I feel alone. It's you're owning that emotional experience, like you're saying, Rachel, the deeper stuff that you just described. Very good. Yeah. And getting vulnerable, how hard is that?
It's very hard, right? Feels a little bit risky, right? I'm sharing this deep fear of mine that maybe I'm not good enough or not interesting enough anymore. A fear that, you don't want to be with me.
Yeah. And that touches on some of my identity things like, oh, wow, I'm not really lovable. I wasn't to anyone else. That's tough. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it can get really hard to be vulnerable. And again, we're probably in like the third or fourth, maybe fifth session when we start going into this pool of emotions, the deeper stuff out in the ocean that we don't want to look at because sometimes it's ugly.
Yeah.
And hard.
Yeah. By this point, when we're revisiting a rocky moment, we're well aware of what the cycle looks like, what demon dialogues we engage in, and, what our raw spot is and how we react when it gets rubbed.
Yes. Yeah. How we react when that raw spot gets rubbed. Exactly, Rachel. That's when we move into number 4. And, the line everybody always says is, well, they got to own that. It's their fault they behave that way. They should have, it's their fault. They're the reason I do that.
So common. Yeah.
Yeah. If they would just do this, then I would do that. And that's true. You feel like that's very true in that moment. But then you have to, once you take a step back, you have to be like, well, I may be making them feel dismissed or like I don't care. So owning that you might be making them feel vulnerable, that's even more hard. Because nobody wants to be the one that does the bad move.
Right.
I don't want to be the one stepping on your toes. I want it to be you. I want to point the finger at you.
Yeah. Yeah. Learning that, in any relationship, you as an individual can be a source of safety and comfort or a source of fear and disconnection based on your behaviors.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's well stated. So we want our couples to feel safe with each other, not igniting more fear of vulnerability and not being good enough.
Yeah, because if I'm trying to stop the cycle and I say, hey, when I tried to have a serious conversation and you sigh and roll your eyes at me, I feel hurt and pushed away. And if that person isn't empathetic to that and they say, well, you need to get over it. We're not having this conversation right now. I just got home from work. I have a million things to do.
Yeah.
Ooh, being vulnerable was not safe in that moment. And now I feel even worse.
Yes, being vulnerable wasn't safe. And that's what Rachel and I do in couples therapy. We teach the other person to hold that vulnerability and be with them, right? And not get on the defense and attack and dismiss the person. If you've been in a marriage for very long, you know that when you go to that person to be able to share, oh my gosh, I feel scared about COVID, or I'm scared that someone's going to get sick. Oh, get over it. Don't worry about it. It's all a big fraud. Well, I'm feeling scared. You just dismissed my scared.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that part of owning your own, or owning how you shape your partner's feelings, and whether you're turning on those attachment fears, is huge, right?
Yeah.
She might leave me, so I'm going to pull away. When she attacks me, I think she's done with me, so I'm going to, yeah.
Yeah. And back to what you were saying earlier, a lot of times in couple sessions, when someone has, a raw spot that gets rubbed a lot, and the partner wants to blame it, like, well, that's something they need to work on that on their own. Like, they need to learn how to manage this anxiety. I'll say, you're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
The safest, fastest way for them to learn how to manage that is within the safety of this relationship, right? And that's a huge honor that you get to help them move past this. But in order for that to happen, they need to know that you're going to be empathetic and understanding of what they're going through.
And that's like being present. You know what I mean? I have very few interactions with people where they're fully present.
Yeah.
I do with you, Rachel.
Oh, good. Thanks.
Yeah.
Likewise.
And I do with clients that have been in therapy for a long time. Learning how to be present, really present, not on a device, not doing something else, but looking at your spouse and really being present. How else will you know how they're truly feeling if you're not looking at their face?
Mm. Yeah.
You got to look at their face. And that's why we do those enactments in couples therapy, is we're wanting you to see each other, because it means there's a mirror neuron connection when you look at them. So if you're just walking away and you're looking at your phone, oh, you felt bad? Oh, well, get over it. Well, okay. You don't really care about me, do you? That's what the other person's thinking. So owning what you're doing that's creating this cycle is important, and that person's feelings.
Yeah, because this is a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just one person or the other. It's both people simultaneously, right? Sue always calls it a dance. Right? And winning or losing is only in sports or on the battlefield. And this relationship is not a competition or a war.
I love that. Good analogy. The relationship is not a war. It's not a competition. Yeah, that's very good.
It's a safe place. Or at least that's what we want it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're my ally in life.
Yeah.
Not my antagonist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the stage in revisiting rocky moments where we're really reframing the idea that it's the cycle that's the enemy, not your partner.
Very important. And I was asked today by someone, how do you get your couples to not to recognize that the cycle is there and to name that, instead of, just cycling, and not understanding what's going on. And I think it's good. I have some people, they'll call it the devil. I have some clients will call it, the whirlwind. I've had people call it different things, but it's good to separate yourself from what happens between the two of you, to put that cycle out here. Oh, okay. So you're not so closely tied to it as a person.
Yeah. So giving the negative cycle a name.
Yeah.
And focusing on that.
Very good. Oh, are we on number 5? Let's see.
Asking about your partner's deeper emotions. Yeah. So once you've kind of owned your own and you've expressed how you were feeling, asking your partner, what was really happening for you when you did this? And if they can't find the words, because some people it's hard. They have gone their whole life only feeling, content and okay or angry. Like that's their range of emotion. And so it is very difficult for some people to access or understand that, oh, I was feeling sad. I was feeling attacked. I was feeling dismissed, right? So, if you have that connection with your partner, maybe helping them or giving them a menu, right? Were you feeling isolated? Were you feeling alone? Were you feeling dismissed?
Yeah, I like how you said the menu, because sometimes it's hard to pick out the words needed, right, in that moment.
Yeah, but if we hear it, right, we can go, that's it. That's what I was feeling. Thank you for helping.
Very much so. So good. Yeah. So I use this as an example. When I insult you, you feel sad and you pull away, right? But you feel like you're not good enough when I attack you, right? So that's the deeper emotion. You feel inadequate. So, of course, you withdraw and pull away. Because, of course, if I'm calling you a dummy
yeah.
or a jerk or other names, yeah, you're going to feel, you can act, oh, your words aren't going to hurt me. A lot of people say that. That's not true. That's the person that matters the most. And they're cutting you to the core.
Yeah.
Slicing and dicing you, that's going to make you feel some kind of way. So I like that you give them that menu, Rachel. Very helpful. So then in number 6, what we're going to do is we're going to share our softer emotions with our partner. And this looks, initially I get angry, right? But underneath, I'm feeling rejected by you. I fear that you don't want me or long for me. Mm-hmm. So when you give me that look, I feel like you're disgusted. And that makes me feel so alone and sad, like you don't really care. And that's so hard for me. So I'm sharing that softer emotion that we were talking about earlier. What happens underneath.
Yeah. Yeah, we're getting really detailed and specific about what's really happening when we engage in this cycle.
Yes, very good. What's really happening underneath the negative cycle? Absolutely, Rachel. And then finally, our last part of revisiting the rocky moment with our couples and de-escalating the cycle is, let's stand together and look at this, and I kind of draw theirs out. I'm not sure what Rachel does. She does a great job. I'm sure she has a method in which, you're showing, hey, this is what this looks like. And when I draw it, it tends to help the guy see, oh my goodness, wow, that's what that looks like. And so they pull back and they look at, yeah, that's exactly what I do. I do attack you when you give me that look, or you're doing that. So then what I do is I get frustrated, and then I just go hide out in my room for the rest of the day. But I didn't know that I was making you feel inadequate or unlovable. But that looks very different. So they're standing together, looking at the cycle, looking at how they touch on each other's fears, and they're seeing it together. And it's pretty powerful when the couple sees how they dance together in session.
Yeah, it really is. To provide them, this map or this picture of, oh, it was more than me just getting upset about the garbage not being taken out or whatever. Like, oh, she's not just this really needy individual, right? She has a raw spot and it gets rubbed and she feels inadequate and unlovable. And I can be responsible for ensuring that that doesn't happen in the future. Or when it does, comforting and reassuring her so that we don't start this, this fight.
Yeah. And Rachel, you brought that up last time. It's a nanosecond. It's like
Oh my
very
gosh, so fast.
yeah. So we hope that this helps our couples and helps our listeners to understand, this is conversation 3 in the Hold Me Tight book. And when you're working in therapy to kind of break these things down to make them, I don't know, more simplistic to understand, or, a little more, I don't know the word, just broken down so that you can see what happens and what this looks like if you're trying to create a secure bond with your spouse. It's a lot of work, guys.
Oh, it's so much work.
Oh,
Yeah. This part that we've talked about today, like the revisiting rocky moments, this is like de-escalation. We're just trying to get you to see that each other is not the enemy.
mm-hmm.
The enemy is the negative cycle, and that negative cycle can be stopped. It's not something that has to keep happening. Like
Yeah.
we can regain stability in this relationship.
Yes, Rachel's right. We want to help you regain stability in your closest bond. And if you should need some therapy, you can contact us at truevine.wv.com and, submit a form and we'll get back with you. Thanks for listening to us today or watching us today. I hope that you and yours have a great day. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. Bye.
bye.